you
That
were
doesn't
here.
show very
Yes.
good for Parkside.
I had about the same. I asked each elementary school. We held a listening session at each of the 3 elementary schools. The way we did it was that in the afternoon, I offered this. We did one with the staff, and then that evening we did one with the parents. And we did those back in early October, mid-October, and then I goofed this one. There were so many different things on my calendar at that time that I confused a night, and so
I was one of them. Oh, that's
so Ms. Clement's here, and I'm at home on the couch watching television. Don't you have and I get the call from our custodial supervisor for the area. Don't you have a meeting tonight? I'm all,
Yeah.
oh no.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that was a Wednesday night.
I think so.
And I thought I inadvertently put it on my personal calendar for the Thursday night because I'd done so many of them. And so this was the reschedule of that one, actually. I put it out, so I think it ended up on our district calendar, which may be where you saw it.
Yeah, it did.
I just saw it from
Okay,
her.
so I just
Oh.
went on the district calendar and I didn't see it there, but I saw it on the Parkside.
Yeah, I put it on our
So you a
calendar.
Parkside parent?
No, I'm an intern and I just come to
Oh,
things to
okay.
get information
I'm a Parkside parent.
and.
You're a Parkside parent. So I'm Parker Barney, so I can tell you I
But
do nothing.
so few of us. I'm Forrest Rensdown. I'm the principal here.
I know. I've been working for the health department since 2008. So I worked at Central when you started taking it over.
You do look, yes.
Yeah.
So,
Right. I think it was like the year you took it over.
back when I first arrived,
Probably.
2006, 7, back that far, that's when I
Yeah.
got there.
I started in 08, so yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
yeah. So I hadn't been there that long, so few of us introduce ourselves. and-
Yeah, and my name is Patricia. My daughter here is in 7th grade. She's in special needs.
My name's Chris. This is my alma mater. I know it very well. And my daughter goes to Parker Barney. She should be going to Parkside, however, does not want to.
I'm Christy. I have a 6th grader here and a 4th grader at Parkside. I mean, Parker Barney.
At Parker Varney,
Okay.
so.
And Heather Thurston, I'm a SNU intern, and I was at Parker Barney shortly, so I'm familiar with that school as well. But I worked with kindergarten and here, working with special needs, all grade levels, going to Southern New Hampshire for special education, and I just love to get the information. Hey!
And this is?
Shawnee Gagnon, I'm the library media specialist here at Parkside, and a mom.
Also a parent.
Also a parent here. Yep.
And your alma mater.
Huh? And my alma mater.
Is it the 6th grade?
Huh?
Is your child in the 6th
I have a
grade?
6th and a 7th grade.
Okay, because I saw Gagnon on
Oh,
one of the
yeah,
lockers
yeah.
in like bright green, and I was like,
That's So the purpose behind this is, as we begin to create more detailed plans, is to make sure that we are preparing to answer questions. I can speak tonight, you may pose a question, we can talk about just about anything you'd like, but much of what I might say is philosophical. It is, it is potentials and plans and what we're looking at. It's not a there's only one issue right now that I believe is set in stone. We talked about athletics, and we know what we want to do with the 5th grade for basketball, but that only because the basketball coaches were able to get together and we were able to talk about that. Just from general background, so as you ask questions, please write them down on the cards because I'll take them with me, and because we want to make sure that we know as we provide further information and as we start to bring the groups together, which is actually starting right now, to actually begin some concrete planning around the concept, is that we're answering all the questions that maybe we're not thinking of. I've had some interesting questions in these pieces that people have written down for me that, eventually I know we have to address when we get our planning teams together. We're looking to create a group of planning teams. I have just to really get busy over probably the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have opening meetings. And then, of course, they'll have various amounts of work and tasks to do over the next 6 to 7 months. Ideally, by July 15th, we really should have everything ready to go and answered. There is a certain amount of this that is still contingent, has to be contingent on budget development at the district level. because this isn't our goal here is really to not just move kids, because if it's just about moving kids, then it's not the right reason to do it. It's about taking the opportunity to create something that we think will be of benefit to kids and benefit to the community. So as you write things down, I will record them. I'll respond to things, but you know, it really is not going to be fair in 6 months to come back and say, you said, and I said, well, no, I said, you know, that's generally what we're talking about. So this 5 through 8 model is probably one of the more common models in the state. Every district that touches us has some form of this 5 through 8 model. So
Yeah,
it's a
I'm
pretty.
in Amherst.
I'm sorry?
Amherst, I think, has it. 'Cause a
Yeah.
friend of mine.
And I just worked in Hampstead and they have that model as well.
Yeah, it's become more and more common, and we've come at it from a different motivation, I think. Not that it's not the way to go, but I think what brought us here is a little different than what happens in a lot of communities when you purpose build a school or you do something like that. Of course, this came out of the redistricting process and focus, and when you look at that often, it's really about, oftentimes we're looking at changing boundary lines and moving things like that. And in our case, the space analysis was that we have more capacity in our buildings in the upper grades than we have in our buildings in the elementary schools. Northwest is, everyone's full on the west side. Northwest is busted at the gills. They really, they don't have even if when 5th grade transitions, Northwest still will be at capacity. So they're actually overcrowded, if you will, right now. So the high schools have capacity, and when we did the facilities analysis, this school was built originally with with the addition that went on in '97, I think it was, something about that time, for a capacity about of 950 to 975, and this in fact will take us to about, I'm projecting 875 to 900, somewhere in that zone. So the raw square footage says that we can do this, and yet the number of classrooms didn't necessarily say that. And what happens in that case is we have a lot more programming that takes place in every school, in all of our schools, than we did 50 years ago when this building was built, or even 20 years ago, or 15 years ago, whatever, that we're familiar with. So we've undertaken to prepare for this. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen have approved a $320,000 bond for some reconfiguration and construction that takes place this summer. So our goal is, because a lot of those programming pieces that have added to schools serve smaller groups of kids, they're not just a traditional classroom. We are looking at taking some very large spaces and subdividing them into more normal sized spaces or some smaller spaces that will then allow us to host and house some of those smaller groups. So we now have, for example, a reading class that we won't allow to grow beyond 15 children because the nature of teaching reading is more individualized attention.
Is that the LA
Yeah.
Essentials?
I'm sorry?
Is that the LA Essentials?
That's LA Essentials, yes.
So when you're talking about subdividing the rooms, are you putting up walls? Are
Yes,
you
actually
doing actual barriers?
permanent wall
Okay.
construction. It's not the partitions, or
Right.
we're actually doing construction. Yeah, no, that
Yes,
would.
that was horrible at Parker Barney, sorry.
Yeah. Well, Beach Street lived with it for how long? Beach Street didn't have walls in fact, it was built and designed as
Was the open classroom center?
one of those schools,
Yeah.
the
Sure,
open
it was an
open
open
concept
class.
schools.
And she's 40-something now, so that was
Yeah.
that long ago. Yeah.
No, it's permanent wall construction.
So,
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I have a
No,
lot
please.
of questions.
Okay.
So I was here during the 6th grade before the new building came, and we stayed in our own area. We had switched classes, we didn't do any of that. We did not go with the other groups of 7th and 8th grade. So now it's my understanding that 5th grade will also be in pods, if you will. They'll just have 2 separate pods that they can exchange with, like math and English would be one certain pod, and then another pod would be the other. school
Social
essentials,
studies.
yeah, if you will. So that is true for fifth grade as well. Now sixth grade's doing that, and fifth grade will also be doing that. Is that
Actually,
correct?
yeah, that's a great question. We'll start right down that road. Our sixth, seventh, and eighth grade teams are all 4 teacher teams, 4 subject teams. So every student has a math teacher, a science teacher, a language arts teacher, a social studies teacher, and then they take 2 unified arts classes to fill out their day. So if the idea of this 5-8 being a real transition period for kids, we're not looking to model that in grade 5.
Okay.
You actually described it accurately. What we're looking to do in grade 5 at this point, and I have actually, is
I
take,
do my research.
to start that transition from 1 teacher to what eventually becomes 7 teachers in a day. Fifth graders are going to have 2 core teachers instead of 4, so they will have one probably for math and science, and a second one probably for language arts and social studies. Now, the reason I say probably, and that's the traditional
I understand
pairing.
it to be math and English because they go hand in hand, and then the other one, so.
Yeah, it's actually math and science are normally the pair.
Okay.
And unless we have a teacher team, a pair of teachers who someone has a particular affinity or a strength in, let's say, math and social studies. And we're not opposed to the idea that we want teachers to teach to their strengths and work where they're going to be most effective with kids. I don't anticipate that's going to happen, but we're open to the possibility.
So how many teachers are you also expecting to transition over into here?
We will anticipate 10 fifth grade classrooms.
Okay.
So there are currently about 44 fourth graders.
Okay.
So our goal is to create 10 classrooms so that our average class size still remains below 25.
Okay.
And
And that is is that including city year in Paris or not?
We will be bringing some city year over is our understanding. What we have to do is look at a proportion. There's a proportion of, if 20% of a school, 18% with count kindergarten, if we're taking 20% of the children, then 20% of the resources, personnel and whatnot, theoretically need to travel with the children.
Correct.
Now, that may not necessarily be individual people as much as it is positions.
Correct.
So.
Because I know that there's so many paras for so many disabilities and such to make sure that matches. So, that issue does not go away once you transfer them here.
No.
However, those resources still need to be here.
Correct.
So how many jobs are gonna be lost in this?
How many jobs are what?
Are gonna be lost in this?
None.
None.
In fact, in order to, if we're to do this correctly.
Because you're doing four fifth graders, 10, and there's how many fourth graders now, fourth grade
Teachers?
classes now?
Oh, classes?
Throughout Goslar, Northwest, Parker Varney.
There are, as I said, there's about 240 to 45 fourth graders.
Right.
So we're going to have 10 fifth grade classrooms.
Still to be about 25.
And there are
so,
currently
okay.
10 fifth grade positions that are coming to us, so that we
So it's
will.
equaling.
Yes,
Okay.
it'll be an equal shift and move. So we're bringing enough positions, and the question just becomes, we can bring a position. Sometimes we bring the person that's in that position, and sometimes the position becomes an open position
Right.
we then need to fill.
Right.
So
Now, what about the school day? Is it the same?
the
as
school
the
day,
six?
for consistency's sake, we're gonna run the same school day, 5 through 8. So we're not gonna run a
Right.
shifted time schedule.
Are you
for-
gonna change the time of the day?
No, we anticipate that we'll still be a 7:35 to 2:20 school day for all 4 grades.
And are those the only 3 schools coming here? No.
I'm sorry?
The only 3 schools coming here are Northwest, Parker Varney, and Goslar Park?
Currently, that's who feeds us right now, and so that's who the 5th grade. We are the first of the 4 schools to do this. By 2021, all 4 middle schools in
Kinda
the
like the
city
pilot.
are supposed to make the
Oh, it
transition.
was my understanding that all the schools were going to this in Manchester.
Not,
They what?
Not right away.
not this year.
That was my understanding, that all of the city schools were going to this. It wasn't just a pilot anymore, that it was in all schools, all city.
That is correct. We're not a pilot.
Oh.
We're not a pilot to try it out. We are
It's
actually,
all
the
They just
schools, all
transition.
cities.
we are the
Staggered.
first school to do it
Yeah.
because it's better to do it in a phased manner.
Mhm.
And we're gonna find the pitfalls and we're going to, and it should make it easier for the others, but it is a process that's been adopted that over the next 3 years, all 4 middle schools are supposed to make this transition.
Over how many years?
Hmm?
Over how many years?
Over 3.
Okay.
So if I wanted my child to actually transfer to a different school that has 5th grade, as opposed to transferring her to this school that has 5th grade, I can put in for that request.
You'd have, it would be you'd.
I understand.
Yeah, it would be the
Request
normal special permission process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. That makes me happier.
I don't know what the results of that process would be, but that process won't go away, so.
I thought that option was off the table if it was going to be an all-city transfer. Now I know it's not, so therefore that gives me and my daughter the opportunity to transfer if needs to. So Weston would be a school that was an offer to me at one point with my daughter. And that school would be still up to 5th grade, so we wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
least
for
a year.
1 year at least, I don't know
Well,
what.
regardless,
yeah.
it'd be Parker Barney for a year or there for a year, so,
Yeah, so,
and we would have to talk about Parkside.
Again.
Again. By then I'll be in Boston. Okay.
so any other questions? You say you had lots of questions, so please,
Well, I just gave you a whole handful. Isn't
this
that
really,
enough?
this
That
really is
started
about
the-
writing these questions
that
down so
started
we
the
know what
discussion.
answers you need. So,
I'm not sure if you had mentioned it. Is there gonna be blended classrooms with this?
they're gonna be what?
Blended?
Blended classrooms.
I mean, mostly.
Not blended classrooms per se, we're not looking at the model that Parker Varney uses where they're more coherently mixing classes, but
Or like high
what we
school.
are looking at in terms of a curriculum shift is we're trying to promote a design that accelerates every student, that can be accelerated and meets the needs of students more directly than perhaps even we are right now. And so it is about loosening up the definition of what a grade level placement might be in, for example, math and language arts, for example. Social studies and science are more content driven, so they have a defined content, life science in grade 8 and earth space in grade 7. So it's much more difficult to say, well, I'm a 6th grader who can do, yes, I could do the 8th grade work in science, but if I do that, I'm not going to get the content that I need to get. But in math and language arts and reading, it can be a bit more fluid. So what we're looking at is the idea that we want to loosen up that definition of grade level. If a student has a need, we want to meet their need where they're at. So rather than say there being a class called 7th grade math, what we're anticipating looking at is a 4-course system, pardon me, over the 4 grades still, but our 5th grade, the primary class will likely be something like elementary, the elementary standards and contents class, students that are completing mastery of the elementary standards. If that's where they're at and they're in the 5th grade, then that's the class they take. If a student in the 5th grade, for example, is ready to move on and has mastered the elementary standards, then we will have something that's the next math class is conceptually a middle school's 1, which would be the normal 6th grade class. And if there could be a 5th grader that's certainly prepared to take that.
But
So,
now reverse that into terms of the 5th grader who's not at the ability of that.
we mix that up within what we do similarly with our leveling now. We can differentiate within that elementary standards class for the 5th grader who might not quite be ready. We have to do that along the road anyway.
Shauna kind of knows a little bit where I'm going with my questions and such, because right now I'm dealing with my daughter being tested. Not that she has LD or anything like that, but just classroom attentive to detail and needing more work on, okay, Lily, focus on this is what we're doing type thing. So that's what is being failed right now in the atmosphere that she's at. So coming here to 5th grade into a bigger school just gives her more opportunity to be distracted, which is what we're trying to get away from.
Understand your point. So there could be a 6th grader ready for pre-algebra. Well, that's that's possible. In fact, we had a student a couple of years ago who we figured
That would be
by the time we needed to, we were planning that student to be at West by the time they were in 7th grade, taking a math class.
Right.
So it does happen.
Right.
So the idea being with that flexibility, that middle 1 and middle 2 become the traditional 6 and the traditional 7, and kids are placed based on where their skill sets are falling, where their needs are. Now, that does not necessarily mean that there's a 7th grade and a 5th grade class. What that means is, as those numbers dictate, and the students that need acceleration are likely fewer, generally fewer in number. They might in fact go up and take a class, but they're academically prepared to do that. We give them the support to do that. A 7th grader, which would be the middle 2, who might need a middle 1, those numbers are probably large enough that we would actually host a middle 1 on a
Right.
7th grade team that way.
You would put that in as. part
Right,
of
it
yeah.
gives us the
It's
ability
kinda
to flex the curriculum
taking
based on
classes
grade
at
level.
West.
So it's a version of the grade banding, if you will, but it's not just, okay, mix the kids together and do that. Our top outs will be in 8th grade, pre-algebra becomes the standard 8th grade class, and then the acceleration is Algebra 1. Our goal becomes, we are actually offer high school credit in 3 different courses right now. So students that can take those courses here, 2 of them are open entry, which are Spanish and advanced art, our advanced art, which is fundamentals of art, and 3D design combination. Algebra is, there's a placement process that's involved with algebra.
Do you still do woodworking here?
Do we have what?
Yes.
You do.
Sort of.
Yeah, it's
Sort
it's
of.
developed.
Yeah, we've
It's not like
I
it wasn't
subbed in
really
there, it was
weird.
great,
Developed more?
actually.
They do HVAC now, they do, right, all that, those types of skills.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they're still working with the wood. and,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's
I know they were
pretty cool.
No, we used to
Something.
use like the whole entire like Skinner and all that.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, okay.
So
Now, would that also be part of 5th grade curriculum, that they'd be able to do that too, or does that go back?
what we do is, in fact, you
Like
asked about.
5th graders should be just as much available to use the same specialties as 7th and 8th, correct? Or are you not bringing them to that level?
What we do is, Parkside's a little different than the other schools in the district, and I'll give you a little backstory on why. Around the idea of our unified arts. We take our unified arts and we establish each year is targeted at a specific pair of our unified arts, so that over the course of a student's career here, they have the opportunity to experience all of our unified arts courses. Because it's really about experience and exploration in middle school. And what we're doing with the unified arts is adding a really major component, and that is career exploration. Not career study, but it's that exploration piece to understand what opportunities are. So you asked about woodshop, and that actually is our first one to change. That course is now centered around the construction trades. And what we do with that is we partner that program with right now about a half a dozen different businesses. And there are 5 units in that class, from measurement and safety to framing to plumbing, electricity, and HVAC.
Right.
But what happens with that is our industry partners then come in and they do a significant amount of presentation and time in the classroom, sharing with kids what are the careers available in these different companies. Because it's not only I'm learning to frame a house, it's understanding that those businesses need accountants, they need IT people, they need a sales force, they need estimators, they need a wide variety of people to make those businesses work. And it's nice to have a little understanding of the business that you're working in.
Well,
So
what happens is when you go to West, you also have the opportunity to do MST in your 3rd and 4th year, and sometimes your 1st and 2nd. For example, my nephew, he already has his 1st year apprentice card for electric. So he has an apprentice card. However, when you actually look at the apprenticeship or the labor type trade itself, to be in the union, his card means nothing. But it does show that he has done some work underneath that
And he'll have an easier time when the
apprenticeship.
time comes. A lot of that's
Right,
age-based.
to get into
Right.
that. So that's good that you're modeling that now and you're bringing that in now, because it will just go into West and to get into that, and then to do MST
And
specialties.
that particular program at MST has been shrinking over the years.
Mhm.
Because kids, by the time kids, this is where that experience comes in and just experiencing these different things. By the time students are ready, are allowed to make the choice about MST, for the most part, they have set in their minds what they think they want to do or don't want to do, but they don't have enough information about the wide variety of things that exist in the world.
Well, it used to be that you could only go to MST your junior and senior year. So I don't know if it's still like that or not.
That is still the case, but the state has now changed the law. I think in the fall, they're actually be able to go as sophomores to the career tech
Yeah.
ed programs.
Yeah.
So our visual arts are probably going to take this step next. So when students take visual arts, they will, in its particular grade level, it will then bring in graphic artists and photographers and the different arts fields related professionals, so kids get a sense of what those careers are.
So we're still talking about 5th graders and 6th graders being able to utilize those same things, correct?
As they reach the allocated grade level, they will take those classes. So 5th grade, each student has 2 unified arts that are slotted to the grade level. And then art and PE tend to be, are the ones we use if they have room to fill out a second UA, that they don't have a chorus or a band or an orchestra,
Right.
something that fills out the second, or they don't have a resource room or an EL classroom or a reading class or something such as that.
See, I always did band, chorus, and I also did the wood and whatever was in the back hallway we were able to do. So I always did all of them here, so that's not going to be available then, because you're using those 2 as the arts.
Over time it is, and that's the part I don't think I'm making clear to you.
Okay.
That-
You can't, it's not like they can pick every one of each or so
Like,
many. You can
Fifth
you
grade
get-
would have woodworking and say
No,
home ec.
No.
5th grade would never have
No,
woodworking.
no, but
I wanna be-
But I'm saying art and each grade level.
The 2 courses that we shoot for every 5th grader to take are likely to be computer applications and keyboarding, as well as a general music class. In 6th grade,
In music and band, you're saying?
they can still take music and
Sorry,
band.
choral
In
and-
fact, we're going to be able to add performing groups for band and chorus, or excuse me, orchestra and chorus. We think we're gonna have to wait 1 year for band simply because band starts in the 5th grade right now, and orchestra starts in the 4th grade at the elementary schools. So our band students are still going to be brand new in grade 5 to us, so we'll still be using for 1 year, and then we hope to be able to move what they do with introductory band in grade 5, band instruction in grade 5 to grade 4, so that the following year, the next group of 5th graders is ready to come in and start a performing group
But
themselves.
see, Parker Varney does have a band for 4th and 5th graders.
That's what he was just saying.
The band is 5th grade. Orchestra starts in grade 4. That's what my colleagues have told me. So they may be getting some 4th graders into it, I would imagine perhaps, but it's not the general model that we're aware of.
Like, if my child went and did separate lessons, say when they were in 3rd grade, they are accepted into the band earlier because of the extra lessons. So
That's what I'm
That's-
saying. They may be filtering
Correct.
some 4th graders in there, but it's
Due to extra study that-
it's not the general model.
right, but
So-
there are exceptions that are going to
Absolutely.
be okay.
Absolutely. So general music, band, orchestra, and chorus available all years. So that will, for those students, fills one of those UA slots, Unified Arts slots. Then the other,
Ray, I think your analysis, I'm sorry.
yeah, then the other slotted courses in 6th grade, family consumer science, and we're looking at a coding and robotics course for 6th graders. 7th grade is health and, and construction trades. And then 8th grade then adds the ability to take Spanish and French, which we hope to add next year. That's part
So
of
you can't do that for 7th grade anymore, 7th and 8th.
it depends, what that does for us is it depends on the number of kids who are looking to take the course. So if there are so many, in the past couple of years, we had so many 8th graders that wanted to take the course for credit, I didn't have the teaching resources to offer the introductory course in 7. But what 8th grade Spanish is, it's the complete freshman Spanish 1 course from the high school. which is why they could leave here with credit. So if, depending on our numbers, if we have the teaching resource available, then we do an introductory course that's open to seventh graders.
But you already know what kind of teachers you're going to be getting for fifth graders, so you already kind of know if you're gonna have that specialty or not with the upcoming year, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So you already know what kind of teachers and specialties you're gonna be having for the upcoming year.
For the most part, yes, other than the
Okay.
fifth grades are still a little unclear. We're working on our projections and what we want.
Because that's what I'm saying, because if it's not really an if you have that background, it's a, you already should know if you have that background or
No,
specialties
it's
coming
not
in.
if we have the background, it's if I have one Spanish teacher, and that's what I'm going to have is one Spanish teacher. So if I have 100
They all
students
can't take it.
who want Spanish,
Mhm.
I can service those 100 students with that one teacher in the 8th grade if I have 100 8th graders.
Mhm.
But if I have 100 8th graders, I no longer have an empty period to give to 7th graders to take for a semester.
Right.
If I had 80, then I have an empty period I can put in 7th grade. So that's where I say I have to allocate the resources. So,
Because I'm sorry, I keep going back to when I was here. I just remember 7th and 8th grade both were able to take Spanish. Do I
Well,
remember that
and what-
correctly or
And
not?
I can explain
And
why.
French.
What that was,
Yeah.
you were taking at that point Spanish 1 over the course of 2 years.
Mhm.
So you were taking the first half of 9th grade Spanish 1 in grade 7, the second half of Spanish 1 in grade 8.
Mhm.
But because they were disjointed like that, you weren't receiving it, there was no way to give credit for it. So that's why we're offering the freshman Spanish 1 class for 8th grade and focusing it that way. So every student who wants to take it gets it, and next year we hope to add a French teacher as well. We were supposed to add that this year and it didn't.
Are you gonna change it to Canadian French, please?
Probably not,
French
The
Canadian?
West Side or Dairy.
probably
Yeah,
not.
really.
I have a question.
Probably
Well, now
not.
the new, come on. We're all,
Why,
French Canadian.
why isn't phys ed pushed?
Yeah. Good
So
question.
technically, elementary has it at once a week. Why is it not for sixth graders?
Many of our kids take PE all 3 years.
But you have to choose it, right?
You have to have room for it, more so than not, in the 6th and 7th grade right now.
Okay.
It is right now, it's one of our 8th grade pairs, but because we have 2 PE teachers, and we only have 1, and 2 art teachers, we only have 1 of everything else. When we take again, it's that same argument, it's the same explanation of Spanish and the resources. Once every student in the 8th grade has been fulfilled for PE, we then have 7th and 6th grade sections of PE that we then put out in the schedule. But a lot of kids need courses earlier on, the language arts essentials and the reading classes, or they have a resource room, or they have an EL, which in addition to the grade level UA becomes their second piece.
So you don't find or think that there needs to be a few more areas where you could fulfill specialist needs?
Fulfill special
Or
what?
specialist needs to those categories? There's no openings, positions, slots that you could fill?
For example,
French teacher,
That's what they're looking
a
for.
gym teacher.
our anticipation is that we have a French teacher on our plan.
You want to add a second?
And we have another PE teacher on our plan, we have another art teacher on our plan, we have these things to fulfill our needs to,
So potential open employment opportunities is what I'm asking.
yes,
Okay.
there are those potentials. I have a big meeting Monday, we have the core teachers pretty much established, I've started meeting with them. Monday, we have to sit down and figure out the process and the procedure around. There may be an art teacher that I need an art teacher. The question becomes, if they move an art teacher from one of the elementary schools,
Mhm.
well, does that make sense, or does it just make sense if they're gonna have to hire an art teacher, then why don't we just hire the art teacher? Those are the pieces we have to leave. We're looking to add about 12 positions to the staff in addition to the 10 core teaching positions. So we're looking at a net gain of 22 staff positions across all the categories.
Mhm.
In fifth grade, we'll have gym once a week.
No,
They won't.
if they have a gym class, it'll be an everyday class. So
that's
it's
for
gonna
fifth
become a
grade.
middle,
Okay.
we're gonna move them to a middle school model where if they have a course, they'll have it every day for a semester.
Okay.
Is what we're planning and looking at right now. And again, my curriculum teams, which my staff will get the call tomorrow, we talked about it a little bit yesterday at our staff meeting, for hey, let's sign up and start planning this, and we'll be bringing some parents on with a couple of these committees as well, so I'll be sending some notifications out through the 3 elementary schools and through mine.
Can you just send it to my email, because I'm from Parker Varney, and I don't get
Well,
mail.
what I will do is, when I have stuff ready to go, I will ask them to use School Messenger to send it out.
Okay.
Which I have found here, we use School Messenger quite a bit here, sometimes to the annoyance of my parents.
Yeah, the snowstorm was a bit
But-
annoying. I
Yeah.
got 2 text messages, I got a voicemail and an email, and we don't have school.
Just know if you
But I
want,
don't get the ones about, we're transitioning your daughter into junior high.
you can go on the app and control which of those you receive.
Oh, I know. I
Yeah,
have
I
a
just-
Manchester alert and then a Manchester.
We took our parents, I had to keep saying, I know there's a lot of them, go to the app, download it, then you can
Yeah.
tell it not to give you these.
But our principal also sends them out on Sundays. So,
But I send them out on, we try to
Okay.
send everything off after 5 o'clock.
On whatever day you want.
Huh?
On whatever day you want.
no, faithfully, we
True.
know we're gonna get him on Sunday evening.
That's funny.
He has been
6 o'clock.
consistent, yeah. So,
What is the other unified art for 8th grade?
Say that again?
You started talking about the unified arts for 8th grade. What's the other one besides the language?
Art and PE and language are available, are every 8th graders assigned
Okay,
UAs.
okay.
And again, because we have additional resources in PE and art, those flow down into 6th and 7th grade as well. So,
I know when I was in middle school, we had sewing. I wish they
Yeah,
still offered
home
that.
ec.
Back.
They did that
that's
back.
family and consumer science in 6th
She's-
grade.
So Hannah's gonna start that in a couple
Are
weeks.
we-
I thought that was
are you
just.
doing home ec
No.
here?
Family and consumer science is
No, it moved to sixth grade.
what we call
Yes,
home
right.
ec.
That-
Okay,
yes.
so that
Sewing.
is here.
Yes.
Okay.
So is she, the FACS, is it just cooking or is it cooking and sewing?
There's a little bit of each.
Oh,
It's
great, she'll
it's
be happy.
it's an integrated course, and it's a 6th
Okay.
grade course.
I know.
My
and I
son's
got
in it.
permission because
Yes.
she couldn't get into it in
Right,
sixth grade, and so we allowed her
Right.
to get in there.
We always look at individual situations and we try to meet the needs that people want. Sometimes if we can, we always will. Sometimes in a perfect world, we can't, but that's fairly rare, So like in your case, there's a little bit of everything in that course.
You said your son was doing it?
Yeah, he loved it.
Yeah.
He loved
Yeah.
it. He got some sewing, some babysitting, training,
Yeah.
cooking. Yeah.
You know what would be
So
nice
maybe
is
it's
if they integrated like how to balance a checkbook in there and things like
Right.
everyday skills
Thought
for these
about
kids.
that.
They don't know how to do it.
A lot of that stuff, yes. She does a big finance unit, she does a big
really?
employment unit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
Oh,
there's
good.
They have to
She,
get that
our,
in,
our fax teacher actually
economic-
coordinates a program
economics.
called C4U Reality, which is she does for the 8th graders actually.
Okay.
And that is sponsored by St. Mary's Credit Union here in town, and they actually bring in a mini city into the gym, and kids have to get a job, an apartment, put together a budget, figure out all of that.
They're doing that now with Lily in 4th grade. Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter was in that. She loved it.
Yeah.
And then she got pulled for LA Essential, so
Oh.
that's been a work in progress.
Well, yes, I know that, and I will tell you, I look at the world as the priorities.
Yeah.
If someone needs a help with a reading deficit, we're gonna get dividend and payback for that for the next 50 years. That really is the importance, and, as you bring it up, this year, the average reading level of a Parkside student was 5th grade, 4th month when we started the school year.
Mhm.
Well, at this point, it's now up a year and a half, in a half a year. And
Yeah, the letters drive me nuts, what letter they're reading. I'm like, I don't know what Q is. What is Q? I don't know, is that good, bad? I have
typically,
no idea.
typically when 6th grade arrives, 30% of our students are reading on grade level when a 6th grade class arrives. And so we have worked really hard the last 3 years to try to address that, and that Language Arts Essentials is part of that. That's another possible UA based on student need. And what that is we're very lucky to have specific reading instruction in middle school. Typically, teaching kids to read theoretically stops about 3rd or maybe 4th grade. You're supposed to be a competent reader by then, and you shift from learning to read to reading to learn, so to speak.
Can you
And
come to my house for homework time?
but the reality becomes that we right now have 3 reading teachers. We next year should add a 4th. We also should add 3 additional math interventionists to approach the math achievement in the same way.
And this is a Title I school, correct?
Is that
No.
is that what it's?
Oh, it's
is
not.
it similar to Title One?
It is this, we could be designated as a Title I school, but Manchester doesn't designate its middle schools as Title I.
You applied.
But we
for it.
could be designated as such.
Wouldn't you want that if Gosler's a Title I and Parker Barney's a Title I?
It wouldn't bother me. It brings with it additional resources, so it wouldn't bother me.
Exactly my point.
But if they're getting the same thing from the LA Centrals, then they really don't need.
Or actually, really all it
You
would
could
do
get
is
both,
find
could you not?
a way to pay for it in some ways. So,
You don't have to pay for
Is
city
the
year, do you?
district looking
city year,
at
no.
programs?
We're getting, I'm working with city right now that we should be transplanting a portion of the city year crews in to bring that support into the middle school next year.
Exactly, okay.
Are they looking with Manchester to bring in programs, like a math program, and it might not necessarily affect the middle school, but now having 5th grade, just because, like I know in Florida, Go Math, or
Yeah, I was gonna ask
Eureka
about that.
Math,
iReady
or-
is what they use in grammar school.
Part of the superintendent's program to do this is that for this coming year, and I'm doing this part from memory,
The
so forgive me if I get the
superintendent
order quite out of,
Yeah. Still on.
quite not right,
Still.
is a math program adoption is required for us to make this move next year, at least for grades 5 through 8. And then the following year, we will adopt a social studies, the following year language, the following year science, and then the following year math on at least a 5 through 8 basis, so that we have a more consistent curriculum. But we have people now who are getting ready to get together and mesh the middle school standards and our courses with the elementary to make sure that we're hitting the correct standards, and that the 5th grade curriculum that we begin with next year aligns both directions, so that it aligns with the elementary school and it aligns with, the fact that, what we're doing here in the middle school.
So a little bit about what she was going on as far as programs are, my daughters do use iReady, that's what they use at Parker Barney, iReady, Prodigy, what else?
Was it Learn? What was the one? There was another one for math last year.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but.
Are they gonna be able to still utilize those programs here?
Yes, we currently
You
use
do
iReady.
use those,
We
okay.
use iReady, right now we use iReady for math.
Yeah,
We have access to the iReady reading licenses as well, but I want to explain right now, we also have a reading program that's called Reading Plus that has been provided to us by the United Way, a license for every student. And that is what we have been most successful with. Our growth of our students in reading last year was
Oh, yeah.
in the 60th percentile.
yeah, it's crazy.
Right now, as I said, we've already grown a year and a half.
Mhm.
So we embed those 2 programs into our regular instruction.
Right,
So on the Reading Plus side, the language arts teacher, 1 period each week, students will work on Reading Plus, as well as the social studies teacher, 1 period per week. Now, that is designed as the tier 1 that everybody does, because everybody needs some improvement. Students that are more than 2 grade levels below in their reading, then that's who we're looking at for additional interventions. That might be language arts essentials, it might be a reading resource, it might be a multisensory reading, but it's additional exposure and additional use of that Reading Plus program, so that we can start to close those gaps. That's how we're getting the year and a half in less than half a year at this point. And I anticipate that we will probably be somewhere between 2 years, 6 months, and 3 years growth by the end of the year. That it's very likely we will be on grade level average as a school. That always varies individually,
Yeah.
but as a school, we'll be reading on grade level average. And it showed in our state testing last year. As I said, we were in the 60th percentile for growth in reading, which we had 50, just the one I remember off the top of my head, we had roughly 50% of our 8th graders leave proficient or proficient with distinction
That's good.
on state testing last year, which hasn't happened Well, the numbers are normally somewhere in the 30s when you combine the two. So it was a significantly successful year. We're now this year, and we'll continue to implement on the math side the same process with iReady Math.
Yep.
And then that's the math teacher and the science teacher embedding 1 day a week
Yeah.
into that process.
And they're doing an additional testing, I think, as well, because I just got something sent home to authorize an additional testing of math and language arts, separate from the kneecap, separate from everything else. I don't know if it's
We're getting ready
ECT
for
or something
mid-year
else.
iReady assessment is what's happening, probably. That's what we're getting ready to send out
There was
the,
different
Do you
names.
have
or did you get NAEP?
Neat.
You
That's
ha-
what it is. Yeah.
NAEP, the federal government selects schools around the country for the
Okay.
National Assessment of Educational
Yeah,
Progress.
that's what it is.
And
yeah.
so we've been selected for that as well, and we will be sending our notification out, and it's our 8th grader, it's our 8th grade that's selected every year for
okay.
that.
So yeah, my daughter's in 4th, so yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So-
and they need our written permission for that?
Because some people don't want to do it.
They don't need, I don't believe it's written permission as much as is, you can opt out if you choose to, but it's not a, I don't believe you'll find it's written permission to participate as much
Yeah,
as
they
it
just
is.
want us to, they need a signature to state whether or not
You
want
agree,
your child.
yeah.
Okay.
So it literally is like, yes.
One of our
or no,
guidance
yeah.
counselors working the process now and just
Weird.
getting people involved,
Yeah.
so.
That's the other thing is, are you gonna have more guidance counselors with
We're
kids?
slated to add 1.5 guidance counselors, which would take us to 1 for every grade level.
Oh, okay.
So then that will then take us to 4 guidance counselors, a student assistance program counselor, and a social worker. So we'll have a team of 6 to really support kids' needs.
Are you gonna have an RO as well?
Have the what?
Yes.
So SRO.
Hmm?
SRO.
Oh, yeah, the SRO remains with us. He actually serves all the schools on, all the middle and all the elementary schools on the west side. He's housed in our building now.
Oh, you don't just have one dedicated for here?
He's here the vast majority of the time, but he's on call to Parker, Varney, Northwest, and Goslar.
Barbie just stays at Central, and she's busy at Central, Officer Barbie?
Not anymore?
No.
Yep,
Where
she
is
has
now?
retired.
Yeah, she did.
So-
So let me ask you then, so
Yes.
you just said that the SRO is housed here primarily, but serves the other schools. Those are the grade levels that will remain, even though the 5th graders from most schools are
Mhm.
coming here. They'll still be on call for the other schools
Yeah,
for
he'll
K
still
to
be
4.
on call for the 3 elementary schools.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see
absolutely.
his car here all the time, he's always here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Always.
it's a very,
Yeah.
it's a very rare call.
kinda gives you an idea, right?
No,
It's
it's
a
good
very
that
rare
he's here, I'm glad he's here.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's very rare we call him for anything, but I mean,
Yeah.
you know, very rare.
No,
Well,
I've
compared to
worked
what you
with-
see on the news with all these fights breaking out everywhere, and it's scary.
Yeah.
It's really scary.
That's something different from what we grew up with though, here, to me. I don't know.
Well, you know,
It might have gotten worse, I don't know.
I've been doing this a long time, and my personal opinion is the number of fights haven't necessarily changed. It's
Yeah.
the fact that they're videoed and put on
Exactly.
the social media, and
They're just
everyone
blasted.
has a way to know about it in
Yeah.
a way we didn't in the past. I'm originally from Southern California, and I started my work in East LA originally.
Right.
So, I mean, comparatively speaking,
Yeah.
when I look where I was 20 years ago and what I dealt
It's
with,
pretty quiet.
we're still really, really low on
Yeah.
that scale. So,
It's the bullying, you know, I think that term itself just gets pulled so far away. It's like, you're not being bullied, just stick up for yourself, you know, karate, you know? If you're gonna say yo mama joke, use it as your mama, not my mama. Lily was getting them backwards. Don't say your mama. But,
so anything you want to write down, I want to get on the master list so that we can give you the information we write out. We will share the answers. We'll do those things. As again, anything we've spoken about tonight is general information. The details, the devil's still in the details, as they say.
is there a specific site that we can go to that is updated with all of these meetings and with your subgroups and subcommittees?
There will
With
be.
new developments?
Yes,
Okay.
the
So
district
they-
website has this process to write questions. The district website has a link to do that. So should all of our 4 schools here on the west
Okay.
side on their website.
Because I think that would be a good idea,
So.
to make sure that everyone's available to go to that link and see
Yep.
what's new.
So we're, as we have now more, we get our committees together, we have more information, we'll be getting it out in an organized way. We have a draft course of studies, we have some things we put together that we need to vet through a couple of processes before we publish, even if, we will publish them in draft, because
Yeah.
we want feedback, but.
I guess I just don't know, like, I want to be part of some of the committees, you know what I
Good,
mean?
okay.
Just because I have a lot of questions and answers, and, you know, I'm not one of those people that have I have a gripe and I don't know how to fix it and come to the table. Like, I usually, if something's wrong, I have a way to salute it if it's possible and bring it to the table as a parent, you know, that's involved. I've always been involved. So once it gets rolling, there will be a place that will say.
There will be a
looking
place
for
where we
parents for
advertise what
this.
they are. There's generally gonna be there's 2 steering committees, basically.
Mhm.
One that's made up of school staff so that we can take care of the logistics and the
Mhm.
internal things that we need to.
Right,
One that's made up of school staff and parents.
right.
So, I'm gonna coordinate those 2. It's gonna be the first time I've sort of tried to coordinate. I don't wanna make them 2 competing committees. I wanna
Right.
make sure that they're able to work together and communicate with each other.
Have you ever thought just having a family one based on
We
the
also have a
information?
family engagement group that we'll be bringing together that will
Okay.
that will include parents on as well.
Yeah.
I just
That's what I
finished-
mean, like no administrators or anything, so like the parents can really discuss what's going on and have their questions asked and have it, you know, kind of forefronted by a parent, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's like a parents group, and then one parent can go to the administration and say, these are the concerns of the parents. They feel like they couldn't talk in front of you guys about it, but our forum discussed these are the real issues that, you know, top 4 issues that they want to discuss based on the last report that
I'll
came
give
out.
that some thought.
Does that,
That isn't how I'd envision it, because I would hope that we create relationships where
Mhm.
if you have a question, you ask it.
Yeah.
If you have a,
Some
if you
people
have a
can't talk
concern,
in
you
groups
bring
like
it
this,
forward. And, I hadn't really thought about it that
Yeah.
way, but, I'd like to think that we don't necessarily need to separate out our ability to sit together and, you know, take that feedback without, you know, filtering it through something else. I think that's one of the reasons that we put hey, send us the questions, just give them to us, we'll take them anytime. So that's why they're on the websites as well.
yeah, some people may not have a computer, you have to think about that too. I don't know about half of the meetings, I didn't know about this one, didn't know about the one at Parker Barney. So there is communication gaps, and I'm more of a cheerleader than anyone, you know what I mean? Like, I very much support it, but there are leaks, if you
One
will.
of the things I will do is, you've given me a thought, is sometimes it's difficult with time and communication and just the lag in things. If I'm communicating with elementary principals and then they're doing the very best they can to translate things out. With Kelly Jobel at Parker Vardy, sometimes we're better, she really gets involved and does a lot of things, but.
We could clone her.
But what I will do is I will ask for access to Parker Vardy, Northwest, and Goslar school messenger lists. And so the only thing that I will ever send out is 5/8 stuff,
Yeah.
because I'm not gonna send out.
I think that's important.
So that's, you've
'Cause
given
we
me
get
that
those,
idea.
You know, I can validate, we get those, but we don't get everything.
Yeah,
And you know, maybe it's my children that are stuffing it in their
very well
desks
could be, because I'm
online.
certain
Do
it
you
was
know
a
what I
flyer
mean?
in their
She's-
backpack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I check their backpacks all the time. I mean, I'm not saying they're saints, but trust me, I do find out sometimes. But, you know, it very well could be, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they're not stopping it. It could just be.
No, not at
You
all,
know.
it's just a,
And we do want those parents whose kids are hoarding stuff in their lockers.
Because they're the
and
ones that are the lost
We want them
souls.
to know.
They're
So
Right.
yeah,
lost.
it's another.
which is why
They're
we
the ones
use
you
school
want to target.
messaging.
avenue. Yeah.
Once kids reach middle school, we do not give them flyers.
I know.
It's a
Yeah.
given, I believe it's a given that won't get home.
I know.
So we use school messenger and its attachments and things such as
Yeah.
that so that people
Yeah.
can get them.
I do
Yeah.
have one last question. 6th grade, well, 5th graders last year, I think, got to pick their classes that they wanted. So the parents didn't really have an input or a say. Because my daughter was telling me that, oh yeah, we just filled out a form of what we would like at Parkside or something. How
I'm
did
not
she-
even certain your daughter filled out a form about what they would like. There really is not, because of the nature of middle school and the rotation between the UAs, everyone takes language, arts, social studies, math, and
I bet I
science. There's
can.
really
No,
no.
I'm talking about for music. 'Cause she-
That's, a lot of the teams had the kids just to collect the information, fill out a form that said, I take orchestra, I
yeah.
am interested in Spanish, I am a space
Yes.
student. And so it just helped us figure out where the kids already were placed
Sort
or
of
wanted to
interest
be placed.
inventory.
The selections are limited, so
What if
they're,
they
Yeah.
wanted something different and
Right.
they, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But how is that gonna be, is it gonna be like that for 5th grade?
Right,
So my son's gonna be he's 4th grade,
right.
is he gonna be able to choose?
he will be able to choose, the choice
Musicals.
pieces for 5th, 6th grade and 7th graders are the musical performing groups, and perhaps the stay program for 7th grade kids. And there's only about 20 kids in the whole school that do that, so it's not necessarily a wide choice program. But the musical groups are typically the what we need to know that they're choosing to do. Because as we set the unified arts, then those musical groups we need to know, so that we don't, I mean, I can always get them in there whenever they come and say, hey, you missed it.
but it's nice to have them in
that's
there
easy,
day
but
one.
Yeah.
that happens all the time, I'm not
Exactly.
perfect.
But it would be
Day
nice
one.
for the parents to know what they chose, just so
Yeah.
we have an idea of.
I will suggest that
What's-
to my 5th grade, to my elementary colleagues, because we get, for the 6th grade, we get that information from the elementary schools, and so they tell us, these students want band, these students want orchestra, these students want chorus. They tell us this is an EL student that needs a resource, this is a special ed student that needs a resource, or,
But those aren't necessarily always right. Those, I mean, I've been in a few meetings recently where information is not accurate, that I was dealing with last year, and she
Yeah.
can confirm that. So, things do get, but
Yeah.
you seem very confident and competent with what's going on, and I know what you've done with Central, so I believe that this is going to be a good thing, and,
thank you.
I wanna be part of it as much as I personally can, because I believe if I'm involved with it, then I'll know what's going on, and I can help my daughter even more. It's all about me.
All right.
Just kidding.
So if you didn't write any questions down tonight, don't worry about it, hit the website, if whatever comes to you, just put the question on the website. The link I know is on ours, and it is on the district, I haven't checked the elementary websites to see,
I
but
clicked on it.
I'm pretty
So you
confident it's
may
on
write down
Park,
all the things,
pretty
so-
confident it's on Parker Varney's, because I asked Kelly Jobel to put it up, so.
Kelly Jabel's not my best friend, but, I'm just saying, she doesn't always pull through with some stuff. She's very good, don't get me wrong, but she's overwhelmed too with Parker Barney's stuff, and I'm sure, with the changes that are going on there with the new principal and things that she's needing to do, I'm just saying, I think that's great if you can get on and send us whatever it is pertaining to.
Mr. Renzo, do you have any idea what the special needs population might be that's coming in from the schools, like how that will
The
affect?
special needs population coming in to 5th and 6th grade next year, because we'll pick up 2 grades, is actually somewhat smaller in numbers than what we currently have. It feels maybe we got a bubble, but we will be about 25% special ed next year overall. Keeping in mind that we house, we still house and will continue to house the district's autism program, which so that skews our numbers. We love those kids, and
Yeah.
they do great here.
Yeah,
And our kids, I'm always so proud of how Parkside interacts with all of our kids and each other. So that skews the numbers a little, it just changes the numbers a little bit. But we'll be about 25% special ed. One of the positions that we're looking then to add is a special ed coordinator's position, so that we have somebody that can really focus on that, to allow Mrs. Fields, who is my assistant principal who oversees special ed, to lead the program rather than manage the program.
Oh, that'd
So
be good.
that idea where
I'll do it.
she spends a lot of her time in meetings as the LEA, when she could be developing and leading things as opposed to just someone that's running a meeting. So,
Yeah.
so we'll do something like that as well.
So the 2 programs that are there will still be here?
Yes, we're not losing any of our programming.
Okay. When if the kids are coming into one of those special programs, is their staff coming with them, or will they be supported with hires here?
That depends on the nature of
I know.
that's sort of individualized to the child.
I know. I'm just trying to see how it's gonna impact
We work,
the
certainly we need to work, and we
population.
continue to work to honor what's written in a child's IEP.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's not necessarily a person that comes with them, but if there's a position that comes with them, then we have to work to fill that position for
I
that
know that
child.
there's a big shortage of paras right now,
That's
so
a-
Oh,
that's,
Jewett Street. I
that's
was
the
just there.
problem.
That's
It
great.
is a tremendous problem.
Pay them more
We
money.
we have 4 or 5 openings that we just can't fill.
Yeah.
The applicants aren't there. And it's not for lack of advertising, it's not for lack of trying, but I think Mrs. Field has 3 interviews in the next couple of days, so that is actually pretty promising.
You don't think it has anything to do with money? Because
Uh,
I think there's applicants, but I think
It probably has to
money.
do with that and a lot of
Yeah.
other things, so.
Have they ever
Yeah.
had, I know
It's
it's
not
more
an
at
easy
an
job.
elementary level, parent
No,
volunteers.
They
Definitely
don't
not.
get paid
No.
enough, you're right.
Not necessarily
Hey, I
as
did.
like
I
special
do
ed
one
parents,
on
but just I've
with
had
the
parents
disability,
before
so.
coming in and working with small groups just to do. Is that something that gets done mostly at the middle school, or is that odd?
It's welcome.
Is it?
I will tell you this, as you said, I was at Central, and so I've been a high school principal, I've been a high school AP, I've been a middle school principal.
I have to say, he was a high school principal. Ironically, I got called to the office. Now I'm an intern thinking I'm getting into trouble. And he goes down and he turns around and he's like, "You're from Springfield, Vermont." And I said, "Yes." Well, I gave Miss Fields a little maple syrup and he asked where it was from. It wasn't the same time I was there, obviously, I would remember you. But he was a principal at the same high school that I went to, which is a small, nothing, I mean, just
Well, my
amazing.
kids are going to the schools that I went to, so that's why I'm even more vested, you know what I mean, like.
So I
And to see
think
what the
you asked,
changes
you
are
asked about
for,
parent volunteers. As kids get older, they become naturally repelled by
Yes.
parents. They want to push us away.
But it could be in
And-
another classroom, so like, instead of you going
Yeah,
into
it
your
could be,
son's
but-
classroom, you'd go.
And all I'm saying is, parents sometimes, generally, tend to honor that
Oh, I
desire
see.
of their children to create that distance. So the idea of coming to volunteer in my school, as the kids get older, becomes less and less of something that they're interested in. All of a sudden, and parents often honor that desire on the part of their children.
My daughter,
So.
4th grade, they have a field trip.
So.
Chaperoning.
Might be.
I said I wanted to. She's like, "No, Mom."
Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that a question for me?
Yeah, but what do you call
Great.
it? Is it the extracurricular, like, what do you, for the
Yeah,
course?